7 o'clock. Do you know where your freedom is?
Okay, 75, Roger. Be advised you're also holding another code 2 call on McKinley.
It wouldn't be the first time. There was violence in this town.
35-7, Roger. Status change your location.
It wouldn't be the first time a brutal murder was covered up.
Okay, I'm coming down, but be advised I'm coming from northwest.
And it wouldn't be the first time a prominent family was involved. But it would be the first time it happened here.
I've got a murder at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. An address that changes all the rules. Signs of force?
No.
So you're saying sex, not rape?
So she had sex in the White House.
They were there.
Who was where?
The president and the first lady. They were in the White House.
This is global, Detective. It's a little bit off your turf.
This is a homicide. This is my turf.
The presidency is an institution, not a person. An institution will be protected at all costs.
If the president or any member of his family killed Carla Town, they would call me before they even wiped the blood off their hands.
So what are you gonna do? You gonna put the president in a lineup?
Medicinal. It's medicinal. Yeah, that's it.
There you go. I recognize that sound anyway.
Well, you know, we do not have to get started, but I will tell you, in my preparation for this,
Yes.
I am going method. I am getting into the 1990s DC homicide cop persona. So I didn't shave today.
Oh, nice. All right.
I checked with the wife and she's cool with it. We got divorced just for the
Okay.
day, so I can be a divorced,
Right.
unshaven, smoking, caffeinated guy who breaks all the rules. And
Very nice.
I don't know. I went with the way Wesley Snipes did it because I couldn't find anything, if there was anything, in the character development from when Bruce Willis was supposed to play the part.
Oh, I didn't know he was supposed to play the part.
He left early on.
Interesting. Okay, well, Snipes he definitely had the cigar going that he never lit.
Yep. It's like the Columbo, but with tobacco still.
Yeah, that's
Or
right.
Kojak. Was that, which one of those? Was it Kojak that always had the lollipop?
That's right. Kojak. Who loves you, baby? That was his tagline, right?
I think so. I definitely seen more Columbo than Kojak. I'm sure everybody's got a good or terrible. I can't even try. I can't even try to do his an impression of him. I was trying to see if I could do Alan Alda for this one, but I'm not very good at it.
Yeah, there's a few people that are good at Alan Alda, but he's kind of his own person,
Yeah, it's almost like Kermit the Frog, but a little less
Oh, it is a
severe.
little bit. Yeah.
It's like a smooth. It's like, oh shit, did you deep cuts early on. I don't know if this is all going to get cut out, but did you ever watch that show Family Matters?
Yeah, of course I did. Sure.
With the cop from Die Hard after he retired, he just became a small neighborhood cop or whatever.
Yeah, that was like an 80s sitcom, right?
Yes. And when Steve Urkel would go into that machine and come out as Stefan Urkel, and he's still super smart, but he's a little less nervous, or I guess, or a little bit more confident.
More confident.
Yeah. Alan Alda is like a more confident and relaxed Kermit the Frog is I think where I'm gonna go in my.
Oh man, dude, that's classic, man. I never thought of it that way. I'll never not think of it that way again.
But anyway, sorry. The medicine I took a few minutes ago is trying to counteract a little bit of the espresso I had. So I chatter on less about nothing than usual. I don't want to say so I don't chatter on about nothing, because that's what Psychosemantic's all about. But anyway, see, you picked Murder at 1600.
Yeah, it was. It's a movie I haven't seen in a long time, man. And there were several things that I was listening to you a couple of weeks ago, and you were talking about several movies that you plan to be covering over the next year. Some of which were documentaries, and I was just like, I don't know, man. Maybe eventually I want to be on a podcast talking about a documentary, but I too many of these documentaries are hitting way too close to home lately,
Yes. I'm a little bit behind myself just because of all the regular real world stuff that I pay.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And after a day of that, I'm a little less likely to watch a movie about, although I did, so I'm just pulling this from, I put it off forever, watching The Report. I don't know if you've seen The Report, right?
I've okay, is that the one that has Adam Driver in it?
Yes.
Okay, I've heard some good things and some bad things. You have seen it, correct?
I saw it a couple weeks ago. Yeah. It's not an All the President's Men, but it is a pretty good telling of the CIA, the post 9/11 CIA torture program. Pretty informative in the length of time that it's in. And Adam Driver explores his emotional range, not as much as he does in the Kylo Ren sort of tantrums, but he's not but he's not deadpan. This is sort of like how he is in The Dead Don't Die, which was more on purpose anyway, but
yeah, you guys were fans of that. I listened to your what was the movie you guys were covering where you talked about Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai? I gotta tell you, man, I'm not a huge Jarmusch fan. I love the vampire movie that he did with Tom Hiddleston in it, where they were in. Oh man, help me out here. Was it Istanbul or Turkey or something like that?
Was that
which I guess Istanbul is in Turkey? That's the one.
Yeah, I like that. He's hit and miss with me too. I'm not against him, but I didn't run right out and watch it. Was it Dead Man? Did he do Dead Man, that black and white Western with Johnny Depp? For fucking ever ago.
You know what? He did do that. And that's one I've never seen. I've wanted to because I know it has like some Western elements to it.
It's got a lot, and if I remember right, it's probably been 15 years since I've seen it. That came out,
it was one of his
94
earlier ones.
Or 95 maybe.
That long ago, okay.
Yeah. Before Murder at 1600, which came out in 1997. I haven't seen Gimme Danger yet. I think that's the Jim Jarmusch documentary that I wanted to see. But if it's anything like, he did one about Joe Strummer about 10, 15 years ago. I think it's called The Future is Unwritten.
Okay, and we've been talking about, we've been messaging back and forth about The Clash a lot lately.
We have. And I guess we should probably talk a little bit about Murder at 1600 before we get into more. I imagine we've got some stuff about the outside. Well, do you want to get into outside the movie stuff, or do you want to keep it close to the movie today?
Well, we can do a little of each, man. However it flows, because like I said, I've listened to pretty much all of your episodes, so I know no two are exactly alike. There's a basic structure, but it's kind of good to get out of that rigid structure sometimes.
Wesley Snipes was pretty huge back then. I mean, there was Passenger 57 and the first Major League, and God, what other thing? Demolition Man. Was he in Demolition Man?
Oh yeah, with Sylvester Stallone, right? I thought it was Sly Stallone. I thought Sly Stallone was like the good guy, and Snipes was like the diabolical murderer that had been like frozen. Like their punishment instead of being put into prison or put to death was they'd be frozen. I guess he got thawed out or something like that and wreaked havoc on the world.
That is who was in it. I kept getting that memory kept getting blocked by Judge Dredd.
So my favorite, I mean, goddamn, dude, I forgot how fucking cool Wesley was back in the day. You know, when he comes out at the beginning of the movie and starts talking to that guy, and he said, "I know where you're coming from, man. I feel like I'm going crazy too. I just got evicted, in fact." And he just kind of punches him out and grabs the gun and says, "It was on safety."
They were gonna shoot you, Jeffrey, because Dennis Miller shows up and shows you the type of person he's gonna become in the real world now, where he's like, "Tell him to shoot him. He's holding up fucking traffic."
Right. He's such a douchebag, but I loved him when he did the news on Saturday Night Live.
His weekend updates were great. And I used to enjoy I think it was an HBO show or something like that, or one of those late night things. And then there was just this, I don't know. He hit some age he hit some age where he drastically jerked to the right. And he and I disagree
became very
now
obnoxious
on a lot of things. Yeah.
Right. How much of that, but really though, how much of that do you think he really believes versus he's just like trying to get attention and be relevant again, you know? I get that impression. I could be all wrong, but I don't feel like he believes all that stuff necessarily.
A lot of those, probably on either end of the spectrum, when you get some people on TV, they probably don't believe half the shit they say. I don't know if you ever listened to Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, but that is it's a podcast from one of the main hosts of Last Podcasts on the Left, that like super huge popular podcast.
True crime and stuff like that. I'm assuming you've listened to some of it.
Yeah, true crime, serial killers, UFO stuff, Bigfoot things,
right?
Cults. But yeah, the guy on there, Ben, has a show that's been around for a while called Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, where it's mostly just political talk. And he sometimes, I don't know if he's written for other things. He's run for office, something in Brooklyn, something in New York, and I think he goes on Fox News on occasion. Maybe other TV networks, but yeah, they talk a lot of politics, and he's like, you know, they'll tell you right before they go on camera what they think about something, and then they'll just go on and read from the script. But enough plugging a show that's really famous.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of driving, and the ones that I tend to go in and give the 5-star reviews to are the ones where it actually makes a difference. Where the podcasters actually need the review. So see, we're all truly one community, aren't we?
As Matthew Lillard said in Hackers, I am rambling.
Oh my God. That is going way back, man. Hackers was definitely before Murder at 1600, right? I was thinking, was it like late 80s or like super early 90s? Fuck, I don't know, man.
And, you know, I feel bad. I covered it about a year or two ago. I think it was 95. I think it was 95 or 94.
A little bit before this.
Yeah, still before this. This came out in 1997. This came out Bill Clinton's last term. But did you finish talking about what your favorite Wesley Snipes role?
Oh, you know what? My favorite Wesley Snipes role is Passenger 57, and it all comes down to one quote, and it's a quote that my wife and I use every single time we go to a casino and play roulette, and we live by it, man. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Always bet on black. After Major League, Passenger 57 might have been...
Right. Willie Mays Hayes.
White Men Can't Jump. I definitely saw that movie a lot when I was a teenager. New Jack City.
That was a good one. Rosie Perez was in that one, right?
In White Men Can't Jump? Yeah, she was Woody Harrelson's really smart girlfriend that went on Jeopardy.
Not to be confused with the Weird Al song, I Lost on Jeopardy, baby.
Jeopardy. I think that's as much of the song as we can sing without infringing on the copyright.
That's the other reason it can make sense to fly under the radar, you know?
Do you know who doesn't fly under the radar in Murder at 1600? The president's son, Kyle.
Ah, Trump Jr.
Yeah. Fuck. Kyle Neal?
Does it matter?
Right.
I mean, I can't remember the last names either. Was it President Neal, huh?
Yeah, I think it's President Neal.
Through the miracle of IMDb here, right? Rodney Cox plays President Jack Neal. You got me, man. I had to look it up. You caught me red-handed.
It's sort of a beach read book, DC whodunit crime book names. You know, there's President Jack Neal, and then there's Nina Chance. That's Diane Lane. Yeah, Wesley Snipes, grizzled Wesley Snipes is Detective Harlan Regis.
Oh man, right out a gumshoe right out of a fucking dime store paperback, right?
Yeah, but yeah, President Ronnie Cox, we'll probably just call him that. The governor from Silence of the Lambs is Mrs. First Lady Neal. Who else? I mean, we already talked about Dennis Miller and Alan Alda's the National Security Advisor.
And how spoilery are we going to get early on here for a 1997 movie?
1997 movie. We'll just say if you haven't seen this movie,
right?
Stop now. Slap yourself on the wrist. Not to, I'm going to be out in the open about it. I still enjoyed this movie. It is not without its cheese, but spoiler alert in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Man, nobody wants to hate Alan Alda. He's like America's grandfather, you know?
Well, they say the nice guys play the best villains.
Yeah, I guess that's true, right? That's true. Look at Dexter, right? You saw the series Dexter?
Mm-hmm. They're coming to get you.
Yeah. You remember, what was the, they're coming to get me.
We've angered the deep state.
What was the one season with John? You remember the season with John Lithgow?
The Trinity Killer.
Yeah, he made the absolute best evil killer, right? I think that's what he was called.
He was a good villain in the Santa Claus movie with Dudley Moore. He was a good villain in that.
He was like the CEO that smoked the cigars and everything, right?
The horrible corporate guy, always sweaty hair.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. But he could also play such a great good guy too, though, right?
One of my favorite things that he's done was The World According to Garp.
Well, that book was amazing. I'm one of these readers that actually, no surprise to you, because you guys were talking about it on the VD Clinic. Vanessa's got her goal to do 24 books this year, and we're kind of like holding each other accountable through messaging. She's kicking my ass, dude. She's like 6 or 7 books in, and I'm on my 4th one right now.
Well, we have required reading every month, so she's guaranteed. Well, almost every
guaranteed
month.
That.
Yeah.
But I am one of those readers that I really do. And people get on me and they're like, "Well, is all you really want to see? You bitch about every movie that's based on a book you've read, Lance. Do you just literally want to see a scene for scene book put on the screen?" And I'm actually one of those guys that does. I do not like it when they change, endings and characters and stuff like that. Unless we're talking about the new Pet Sematary, which I really loved and everybody else hated.
I think everything always was divisive, but there's just a lot more communication.
That makes perfect sense. Kind of like cancer always was there, but now we hear about it more, right? Because they actually know how to diagnose it. Whereas back then they called it dying of old age or whatever.
And, Monsanto's had 80 more years to soak shit into our water, but that's...
Oh, man, I was thinking the same thing.
That's another story. It's not the only thing, but yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, what is kind of interesting, though, is when we were driving to New Orleans, because, us, dude, we're always traveling. And we went to New Orleans because my daughter runs in the marathon every year. And this time we took the granddaughters with us. So we were... you pass through like Freeport and like southern parts of Houston, and just like my granddaughter was like, ugh, what is that stink? What is that smell? Because you pass all the refineries. Just thinking, man, I would not want to be drinking the drinking water out of this area over here at all. Because, like, you're passing through the southern part of Houston going toward Louisiana, and that's all it is. It's just, like, nothing but all these steel girders and these nasty giant plants that are blowing smoke into the air and steam and just trickling God knows what into the ground from all those old pipes that, of course, we don't regulate anymore, right? So why fix them?
That hinders the free market, goddammit.
Exactly. It slows things down, right?
Apparently.
Or as they said, what was it? Palin and them were saying, drill, baby, drill. You remember that?
Oh, God, yeah. It's what I think every time Meghan McCain tries to say her dad was a political genius.
So we have an election coming up, huh?
Oh, it's less than a year away now.
I'm starting to get lots of text messages, man, and so is my wife. Actually, I get a lot of text messages to my phone that are addressed to her. You think about 20 years ago, nobody had cell phones, and now all of a sudden, everybody has to have one. It's really weird how quickly that happened, right?
It started out like Breaking Bad with those shitty burner phones. I didn't get a cell phone until I started going out on tour. Just to have a phone in case we were in the middle of nowhere. Because I was thinking about that when you said New Orleans. I've only been there twice. Once was on tour in a band, and once was a couple years ago when the missus had a social worker conference down there.
Oh, and nice.
The first time I was down there, it was Tropical Storm Cindy was getting ready to hit.
I don't even remember that one.
That was a week or two before Katrina.
No shit.
Yeah.
So they kind of got double hit then, huh?
We were in New Orleans for the tropical storm where they suggested evacuating. All the bands canceled on us. We played until the power went out, and then the bartender took us around the city, and we got shit-faced. And
That's easy to do in New Orleans.
We had made our way show-wise to Vegas when Katrina hit New Orleans.
So you're doing the Hunter S. Thompson Memorial Tour, huh?
Yeah, basically, down and around and back again.
Stumbling your way, tripping hard, stumbling your way around Circus.
Yep. Crashed at the house of one of the guys in one of the bands we played with was like a gladiator at Caesar's Palace or something like that for work. Or
oh, nice.
Everybody
cool.
worked. Everybody worked at a casino somehow.
Yeah, of course. So when were you guys most recently in New Orleans?
2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, dude, if you ever go again, please let me know, man. I don't know how rigid your schedule is when you're there, but we're there all the time. It's like a 6 or 7 hour drive for me. So
I will for sure. I'm pretty sure we didn't know each other, or we hadn't spoken much the last time we went by, because I try to keep tabs on where in the country everybody is. Not all at once. I am not Alan Alda in Murder of 1600, or I am not the deep state that is the villain in this movie.
Right.
But yeah, because there are so many people that I sort of know now that I've been in your cities playing shows before we knew each other.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about being a musician, dude. Especially if you were doing any amount of touring. So how does that work, man? Like financially, it seems like that'd be really expensive. Like to, you got to get a hotel room, and of course all the, the gasoline or whatever to get there, and expenses, eating out, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, probably gets. I guess I'm just curious. Do you even make enough money, playing the gigs to cover all that?
You make most of your profits off merch.
Okay.
So a basic tour would be something like, if we're counting more than a weekend tour for, if it's like 5 days or longer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'd probably say went on 10 or more tours. The longest one was the big US one that had that New Orleans trip, and we went from Columbus down through to Kentucky and Georgia. And being a not really big band, we did not get a hotel any of these days. You know, you play the show. Hopefully, you've lined up a place to crash. You know.
Okay,
show,
gotcha, man. So there's a lot of couch surfing involved. Then.
Lots of couch surfing. You know,
Gotcha.
There's a lot of traded gigs. You know, when a band wants to come through your city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you make all those connections. Keep track. You know, our guitar player had a written notebook because he never learned to type. He might type
whatever works, right?
Yeah, so he had just a notebook, and it's like people in different cities and states, and he's like, okay, stay with you. Okay, here's the show where you tell everybody that you don't have a place to stay. And, you know, a lot of the times, especially, I'm sure most music communities are like this, but I really think in the punk rock community, there's almost always somebody that's like, yeah, fuck it, come back to my house. Usually, if a band fucks somebody over on tour, they would never get a gig in that town again. So it's all on the honor system.
Word of mouth and all that, right?
Yeah, and you eventually make friends. Like we lucked out on that tour because our bass player had to go home because had to. He chose to go home because his dad had to have emergency surgery. He was going to rejoin us, but he didn't. So it was just me and the guitar player until we got to California. And then a friend of ours who still lives out there, she learned most of the songs off the CDs of ours that she had on bass and played bass for us the whole time we were in California. And totally got recharged before we went through Idaho, which is where we made the most money on that tour. Was playing a yard in Idaho.
Are you fucking kidding me, dude?
We were
like somebody's yard. They're at their home.
Yeah, it was some guy's party, and they hadn't had a show in months.
Well, what's Idaho famous for besides potatoes? I guess that's it, right?
Well, after the show, some of the kids took us and showed us where Evel Knievel jumped a gorge. And the ramp was still there, like rotting away.
Holy shit!
But yeah, there was like they hung out there and they hung out at Taco Bell's, and I think they I think they hunted, hunting punks. There's a lot of animal heads in the house.
That would be a great name for a band, dude. Hunting punks. It works on so many levels, right?
But like I said, with merch, we pretty much sold all of our T-shirts and CDs and shit.
Cool.
Everybody pulled a bunch of money together. But yeah, we went through. We would usually end in Chicago because Chicago is a 6 or 7 hour drive to here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, kind of like from where I lived in New Orleans, in other words.
Yeah. But yeah, lots of couch surfing. One time we did stay at a hotel because we were on tour with that girl who lived in California. Her band. We went on tour with them. And we had a lot of mutual friends, so usually it would just be we'd all go and crash at the same person's house. But the last night of the tour, the guy that ran the club canceled the show because he said there weren't enough people there. So we got a hotel and got fucked up. For like a big
you're there anyway, right?
Party. Yeah. We got a little shitty because he wouldn't refund people's money, and there were people that drove from Baltimore.
That sucks.
That sucks. West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
No, it doesn't. No, this is going to work perfectly because dig this, man. It doesn't sound like you guys were able to enjoy the same white male privilege as our hero, young Mr. Neil did in this movie.
Oh,
right?
We did play DC on that tour. There we go. There's two connections to this movie.
Fucking A, man.
DC is a fun place to go on tour.
Well, so I thought I knew for sure which direction this movie was going, didn't you?
I remembered the ending as soon as I started watching it. Or are we talking about first time?
I didn't, man.
Okay.
Well, I actually had seen it once. Actually, my wife reminded me because she had been cooking. We had a lot of family over tonight, and they were grilling. And she came into the room and she said, "Oh, we've seen this movie before." And I said, "Really?" So I didn't really remember, so it was kind of like watching it anew for me. So,
oh, that's awesome.
You know, I definitely knew all the. I thought it was a pretty. It's not super high rated, and I don't think it has a big cult following, but I definitely enjoyed watching it, man. I liked the twists. You know, they started out with all the privileges of the, you know, what you get to experience when you happen to be the son of a president. And of course he was involved, right? Of course he was guilty. And then when Snipes met up with him in the park in that one scene about halfway through the movie, and you could kind of see by the look on his face that he wasn't involved in this. And I was kind of like, where's the twist going to go? But I really didn't see Grandpa Alda being the bad guy, man.
Well, you know,
or was he a bad guy? Maybe he did have the best. Maybe he did have the best intentions for the country at heart. You know, I mean, North Korea had those American soldiers held prisoner for several days, right?
They did. Although, how the fuck did they get there?
I don't know.
North Korea didn't come and get them. They were there for something. There's a few plot holes.
I'm not going to say there's not.
I'm just saying that.
I mean, look,
that the U.S. the soldiers being held captive. Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now, or The Hurt Locker. This ain't. You know, but it was a good, enjoyable movie, man. I'm glad we picked it.
Oh, I mean, I think they didn't tell us, but I think it's pretty clear that the soldiers that were captured were there for nefarious reasons, and the war hawks and all the generals and the vice president and Alan Alda, who. What was his position? National Security Advisor?
Defense Secretary? There you go. Yeah.
The Defense Secretary was the general, I think, that was like, Mr. President, you're bordering on illegal. And President Ronnie Cox is like, right? I'm going to do my duty and say you're motherfucking fired. But yeah, well, you probably would have seen Alan Alda being at least he's a villain to me, because he's like, yeah, we'll totally just, you know, you think China's gonna get in our way? We'll fuck up China too. It's on the way to North Korea. And so they're angry at the president for not just jumping into World War III. Because, I mean, China was already kind of powerful in 1997. And
not like they are now, thanks to us buying all of their products.
And you would have seen the possibility of Alan Alda being a villain if you think of other past national security advisors, such as, let me see if there's some names that you recognize. You know, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, Mike Flynn, John Bolton, the mustache.
Right. Right.
Even, you know, Susan Rice, she, I don't think she is related to Condoleezza Rice, but Condoleezza was with George W. Bush and Susan was with Barack Obama. He had three national security advisors in 8 years. George W. Bush and Bill Clinton each had 2 over their 8 years. Donald Trump has had...
Oh, wow.
5 in 3 years.
You're shitting me.
If you count the acting ones. But yeah, there's Keith Kellogg was 2017. H.R. McMaster was 2017 to 18. John Bolton was 2018 to 19. Charles Kupperman was acting throughout 2019, and then later in 2019, Robert O'Brien was confirmed as the 5th.
You know what that ties full circle back into the beginning of the movie, right? The guy that was holding the gun to his head, right? That said, "I'm going to shoot myself. I just got fired by the president." The first thing I thought was, fucking, this guy must work for Trump.
They just threw me out. Oh, did you say you work for the Interstate Commerce Commission? They're evicting me, and I have to save my whole apartment building for some reason. But I say that I don't really know why, so that everybody thinks that since I'm a cop, I can do it. But you know what? Here's my weird, total... This is part of why I think that the Wesley Snipes character is a divorced homicide detective. Because he definitely doesn't live with anybody. With all that...
Yeah, but he has that huge fucking recreation of the... Which battle was that? That he had that spread all over his living room?
There was one with Stonewall Jackson, and there was another one.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think they were all based around DC.
Okay, so he's a cop. He's a cop that just happens to be a completely rabid war historian, right?
Yep, war historian, Washington D.C. historian. This is better than therapy, I think he says. I'm a homicide cop.
That's right. He did. He did.
Do you think he's partners with Dennis Miller, or do you think they just know each other? Because other than them showing up together at the suicide that's blocking traffic, they only deal with each other on the phone. I guess there's that thing at the end where he's the distraction. He plays is he wearing a windbreaker suit? I feel like he just shows up dressed like a tourist and he distracts the police so Snipes and Diane Lane can do something sneaky.
Yeah, I don't know. At first, I kind of thought they were actually like partners assigned to each other, but now that you mention it, it's not like they worked together on the whole case, you know? I mean, Snipes was just like the super detective, kind of like the Sherlock Holmes of Washington, D.C., if you will, you know, that figured everything out. Even though he had some wrong theories at first, but he was willing to admit when his line of thinking wasn't in line with what actually happened, and he was willing to change his mind. You know, when he, like I said, at that pivotal point where he met the little douchebag president's son in the park.
Yeah, Kyle.
And boy, does that guy get a lot of acid.
I would imagine. I don't know. There've been more first daughters. I try to block out the family that's going on right now.
True. You always.
There were the Bush twins. There's the Obama daughters. Chelsea Clinton.
Right.
I don't.
Yep. Again, all females. Yeah. Well, you've got the little Trumpians now.
Yeah. You know, Barron, or as his dad likes to call him, Melania's son.
What are their names? Isn't one of them Donald Jr.?
There's Donald Jr. He's the one that usually has his mouth open and is there. Okay. He's the chosen one that they say is going to run after his dad dies or whatever, or leaves office.
So is one of them? I'm really honestly not trying to be offensive here, but isn't one of them kind of borderline
developmentally disabled?
Yeah, seriously. All kidding aside,
I think they're just dumb like their dad, because there's Donald Jr. and Eric and Ivanka.
Eric, that's who I'm thinking of, right?
Eric's the blonder one that you see less often.
Okay.
Donald Jr. is the one that's always on TV and retweeting people from QAnon. And
gotcha.
He wrote that book called Triggered that they didn't sell very well. So he's the face. Yeah. He's the heir apparent. He's the namesake. There's a daughter called Tiffany that I think isn't really involved much in the politics end. And then, of course, son-in-law Jared Kushner, who's going to solve the whole peace in the Middle East thing.
He's Jewish, correct?
Yes. And I think Ivanka converted for the marriage. And that was one of the things Donald usually brings up when he's like, I don't like Nazis. My kids are Jewish. It's like him saying, I have a black friend. You know, I can't possibly be racist because I have a black friend. Okay. Or...
Yeah, you hear that a lot, don't you? From certain people.
Yeah. More often.
There's no way I could be a misogynist. There's
I'm married to a woman.
Be a misogynist. I have a sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But, so there's a North Korean hostage crisis in this movie that Alan Alda and the generals are like, let's fucking go get him, and you're a coward for not starting war, because he's trying to negotiate. He's always on the phone talking about grain. Yeah. If China wants the grain, I guess now it's the soybeans, which I don't know where all the American soybeans are going to go now that China's getting them from everybody else.
Sure. Right, of course.
But, maybe I would just love to see Trump telling everybody to start eating tofu. For America, you have to get the tofu. I'm going to keep eating hamburgers.
That are quasi-beef, right? Yeah. The McDonald's quasi-beef hamburgers.
Never frozen, only the best.
Right. as long, dude, you just did a great impression. Not of Trump, but of oh fuck, the dude from Beetlejuice that does it on Saturday Night Live now all the time.
Oh, the impression of Alec Baldwin doing Trump. That's probably where I got it.
Absolutely. Yep, Alec Baldwin. There you go, man. As long as they keep subsidizing the big farms that are growing corn, right? So we can keep our kids healthily full of corn syrup.
Corn, yep.
Because God knows that's helping them grow big and strong, right?
Got to get them ready for the draft. No, I hope that doesn't happen. So yeah, this is kind of like, another thing I really like about this movie is that it really takes advantage of being a DC movie. You'll usually see the Washington Monument in the background or the memorials and the buildings. And I mean, I don't, they didn't technically say the title of the movie in the movie, which sometimes is just, oh God, they actually did it. And sometimes it's, oh God, they actually did it. But it's what? 1600 what? I think he says when he's... So the first time he goes to not to circle all the way back to the beginning, but when he goes to the White House, is he drunk? Because he's at the bar drinking with Dennis Miller. And he's like, yeah, I got a suit and a tie. And then he goes to the White House.
Oh, yeah, because he got called, right then and there. And that's when they said 1600, and that's when everybody raised their eyebrows, because they knew it had to be 1600 Pennsylvania, right?
Yep, and they dropped their beards. Or whatever.
Interesting.
I don't know. So maybe he started out drunk. And that's why he didn't notice that for some reason the National Security Advisor was there at the White House late at night when the president was supposed to be at Camp David with the dog, but the dog was there because Diane Lane opened. Everybody's going around opening the doors, and Diane Lane finds the dog, and
right.
One of the guys with the Uzi or some shit finds the Secretary of Defense sleeping on the couch. He's like, oh, sorry, sir. And
well, see, that's where they misled me early on, because I thought because everybody was trying to kick Snipes out of there, like, you don't belong here. This isn't your jurisdiction. And I thought Alan Alda was going to be, an ally from the beginning there. But little did we know he wanted him there so they could set up the breadcrumb trail, right?
Yeah.
To lead to the president's son.
To build the narrative. Like, what does his chief say? Something, you're in this for the same reason that they brought in the doctors in Dallas 2 hours after Kennedy died.
Yeah, that was a pretty good quote, actually.
Another quote that I liked from this movie was sort of near the end. I don't know. We sorry. You know how we do this. Sorry to anybody that this is your first time. I'm a little hyper right now. But Secretary Alan Alda says the Teddy Roosevelt quote: "If given the choice between righteousness and peace, I choose righteousness." And there's like, he's got a gun, like in Nightbreed, except for different.
Right. Didn't think we were going to go Clive Barker, man.
I think Cronenberg is the best performance of someone yelling he's got a gun in a movie. But
oh yeah, the button eyes, right?
Yes.
I saw that movie again not too long ago. To me it holds up.
I think so. I like the director's cut more than the theatrical cut.
Do you? Yeah, it's a little bit longer, right?
It is a little bit longer, but it's a little bit more... I feel like there's just a little bit something extra, other than time, in story.
Well, see, the book had a pretty long sex scene, and in the movie, all you kind of see is the two characters getting together, and then it pans to something else, and then it comes back to him, and the main dude's winking. It's like, in other words, it's like, if you read the book, you know what just happened.
Yeah,
pretty graphic.
Clive Barker loves describing cocks and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But speaking of that scene you're talking about, that's also sort of in the beginning of this movie. Because there's after the suicide scene with the guy who had a gun, who also was in another scene of someone yelling he's got a gun, because he was in Dumb and Dumber. He was the villain in Dumb and Dumber.
What?
I'm pretty sure.
Wait a minute. Oh, he was in this?
Yeah, the guy that's gonna shoot himself in the beginning of Murder at 1600. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. The guy that had the gun on himself.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is the guy that pretended to be the family friend that was actually behind the kidnapping of
Interesting.
lady's husband. And if they're the same person, the story is about both of them. But the guy that was in Murder at 1600, he actually did sadly end up killing himself later in life.
That's pretty bizarre. And was it with a gun, or was it? I mean,
no, I
not
think,
that it matters. Suicide is suicide, right?
From what I had seen, it was he slit his own throat.
Wow.
Or at least what I read. I didn't see any pictures or anything like that.
Yeah, it wasn't like Lords of Chaos, huh?
No, it was not like that. As far as I know, it was just in supplementary reading about the movie.
Interesting.
Looking up the different actors and what they had done, and I had seen that he had killed himself. But I did not look to see if he was the guy in Dumb and Dumber. It's a failure on my part, but
okay.
There's that scene in the beginning where the body in question is alive at this time, and there's just lightning flashes, and the paintings of the presidents are watching, and there's more lightning
that was
flashes.
actually pretty well done, I thought.
Yeah, and then it's like, boom, you're in the Oval Office, watching a movie called Murder at 1600. One or both of these people are gonna die, and
yeah, safe bet. Safe bet. And what I didn't realize too is that when I started the movie, because I didn't have it streaming anywhere, so I rented it on iTunes. And so I started the movie, and my granddaughters were walking through the bedroom, and I'd forgotten that very first scene is almost a little mini softcore porn thing there, and I'm like, whoa, where's my remote? Yeah, it was like, of course, the only titillating scene in the whole movie, but yeah, I thought it was pretty well filmed, man. The way they showed him having sex, and then I don't know if it was just me, but it was like she was looking up at the pictures of the past president. She's like, "Wow, this is my touch with greatness." This is my red dress moment.
I think it's.
Did you get that feeling?
There definitely seemed to be a thrill in the eyes. I didn't know if it was thinking about being in history, or if it was she liked to have sex in public, and that was like an extension of people that get turned on by exhibitionism. I'm sure there's probably groups of people that like to go have sex in historical places or something like that, and that's their thing.
You know what? With the internet, I'll bet we could find such a group, man, if we set our mind to it.
Probably.
I don't know how many security firewalls we'd have to go through to get invited, but
I'll just rest assured and that it's probably out there for those that need it. And
leave it at that.
And maybe because she was not. It was a fabrication that she was going to be selling her story. I'm not sure if she was thinking about that in whichever way, but Diane Lane's about the only other woman in this movie, because with the first lady's in it for a second, and then there's Diane Lane and a bunch of Secret Service dudes and Dennis Miller and Wesley Snipes. And I like how they do have the part where Agent Spikings
lots of dudes.
Yeah, and Spikings he closes the door and he walks up behind her and puts his hands on her shoulders and talks about being a team player. And she, turns it on him.
That was super creepy.
Why is the door shut?
What was the meaning of all that?
I think he was just trying to make her feel threatened. I don't think he was sexually harassing her. I think he was trying to make her feel threatened.
You don't think so?
Which I guess, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess sexual harassment is threatening. But I think he was trying to scare her into... Give me all the dirt you've got on Wesley Snipes, and we're going to continue with this cover-up like we did. Because, she admits that she helped in covering up shitty son's beating the shit out of his girlfriend right before she asked to be reassigned.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes,
they're covering stuff up before. I don't know what Spikings was gonna do when he has that sort of, you've read me all wrong, and I'm gonna tell you what is actually going on, but no, I can't. Do you need to take a break or anything right now before we sort of wrap up talking about the movie and then get into?
Yeah, we'll take a short little break.
We will be right back.
Wham! Bam! What the fuck just happened?
Through the magic of science, we were right back in less time than that took. I do not plan this.
So, Murder at 1600.
Yes.
Murder at 1600. Is Trump going to be reelected?
Oh.
Unfortunately, the chances seem a lot stronger than I would have ever thought they possibly could. Especially with Boris winning his runaway UK vote, man.
I would probably need a little bit more of prep time to talk about the ways that Corbyn and Sanders are different kinds of candidates. But George H.W. Bush was the last one-term president.
You're right. He was the last one term.
Yeah. Before him it was Jimmy Carter? Carter was just
LBJ,
term, I think.
But LBJ walked into Kennedy
LBJ
being assassinated, right?
Yeah, he did that, and then he
Carter only had one term, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Carter just had one term. The president when I was born was Reagan. And
so, you little kid, you.
So there's just been the one-term president. And Dana Carvey does a great speaking about Saturday Night Live, as we do on occasion.
Yes.
I clearly remember Dana Carvey as H.W. Bush going, don't make me be a one-termer.
He's amazing.
The following is a special message from the President of the United States.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. In the past, when I've spoken to you from this office here, the news has always been good, not bad, good. Berlin Wall, collapse of communism, that Noriega thing over there, good. It's no wonder I'm up around that 80% approval area.
Yeah, he was so good, man. He said, wouldn't be prudent.
1,000 years of light. And Phil Hartman was Admiral Stockdale for his Ross Perot, and that was really good. Right when I was starting to sort of notice politics, Saturday Night Live was doing a lot of really good shit. They had Phil Hartman. I didn't remember until later, but Phil Hartman did a good Reagan too.
Yeah, but I thought that what's his name? Did a really good Reagan. Damn it. For a Saturday Night Live buff who's literally never missed a single episode since the first season, maybe that's the problem. I've overindulged in Saturday Night Live, and I can't remember, but they've had a couple of different people play Reagan, right, over the years.
Probably. The only one I really remember is Phil Hartman, but Reagan was around. They probably made fun of him occasionally as a governor, but he was a president for 8 years.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Yeah, I'm sure they did. Yeah, and of course, lots of callbacks to his acting career. Bedtime for Bonzo and all that kind of stuff.
Bonzo Goes to Bitburg is one of my favorite Ramones songs.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say hopefully nobody would fuck with you if you play it at the end of the show, but...
You never
People
know.
do fuck with you about that shit, don't they?
Most punk
you
bands,
never know.
Most punk bands don't, but I think a major label owns their own songs.
I would think so.
But yeah, I'm gradually working my way through and getting. I just got a friend wrote me and said I'm allowed to use his band's stuff, so I'm gonna be branching out.
Very nice. Very nice. Cool.
Yeah. So Trump, he's got a good chance. Incumbents have a higher likelihood of getting reelected.
Absolutely, yeah.
H.W. Bush was the
and
last
I mean,
one-termer.
it's not. It's like, well, I almost hate to say this, but it's almost like I was hoping there was going to be a complete meltdown after that bullshit with the Iranian military official.
Oh, Soleimani?
I know that's horrible for me to say that. Yeah, I was kind of hoping there would be a complete meltdown and a lot of accountability, but there wasn't. He's like, they used to call Reagan the Teflon president. I mean, this dude is like super Teflon, man.
Well, you probably know, but do you know who helped Reagan and Bush get out of the whole Iran-Contra shit? It was Bill Barr.
No shit.
Yes. Oh, look up who he's worked for in the past.
Okay, quite a resume, huh?
Roger Stone is got a tattoo of Nixon's face on his back. And, Roger Ailes, who started Fox, said that it wouldn't have happened. Nixon would have stayed in office if he had a TV network like the one he created called Fox News.
Yeah. Wow. That very well said. Very well said indeed, man.
And
the truth can definitely be molded and formed and pressed and
yeah.
Oh man.
But
wow.
John Bolton, we were talking about him earlier. He worked with those guys.
Right.
Speaking of Drain the Swamp and all these people that were in the Reagan administration and the Bush administrations.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Just like swamp rats, they keep coming back, right?
Totally against message. So it's hard to tell. I didn't take it for granted, but I did not think that Trump was going to get elected the first time. Now, yeah, he does have
nobody did. Nobody. I don't think he did.
I think he was ready to have another reality show, which he has, but now we all have to watch it, and we're all part of it. And yeah, presidents have all the power, especially when you're using the Justice Department to investigate your political enemies and to let all your friends who could damage you go unprosecuted or, all that other fun stuff. But on the other hand, I, to a fault, am still an optimist at heart. So I think he can win, but I really think he can get beaten. He barely won.
Yeah?
He barely fucking won. He got millions fewer votes than Hillary Clinton, and everybody hated her.
Yeah, he absolutely did not win the popular vote. I mean, even he admits that. It all came down to, as always, the Electoral College, right?
He sort of says that, but he still says that there were more fake votes against him than he lost by. He says he lost by almost 4 million fewer votes, right? I think he says that of all the illegals that got bussed in from Canada and Massachusetts and Mexico to illegally vote against him,
right,
he would have also had the popular vote, as Sean Spicer fucking told everybody.
Sure.
And he's going back to the White House.
Right.
He got another job there. Dancing with the Stars didn't work out.
Right. In more ways than one. Although he lasted a lot longer than I thought he should have, because that asshole did not know how to dance.
I still have only seen pictures.
I watched that show religiously. I watch it religiously with my wife because she loves it. So I watch it with her because she watches so many, crazy sci-fi, American Horror Story, and all these other, crazy shows with me. Yeah. So I figure I could at least watch Dancing with the Stars with her, right? Yeah. Plus, there's some incredibly hot female dancers on there that look extremely good in some of those dresses and high heels. So I do, suffer to watch that with her, and he was fucking horrible, dude. I don't how he made it to like the semifinals. I have no idea. I guess it was just like the super fans that would call in and vote 100 times for him. I don't know.
I think a little bit of that. I think people enjoyed him embarrassing himself. I think it was like he spent his time in the stocks in the village square or whatever those are called.
Right. Yeah. People throwing cabbages and tomatoes at him. Speaking of which, are you a Monty Python fan at all?
Yes.
Well, then you're going to enjoy our Horror Return show next week, man.
Oh, really?
Because we have got a special, how we sometimes do things that are not horror movies. We have a salute to Monty Python next week.
Movies and or shows.
So at the at the request of one of our Patreon patrons, Jack Falvey IV, he's a huge Monty Python fan, so we're gonna check out 3 Monty Python movies and also A Fish Called Wanda.
Oh, of course. You got to watch A Fish Called Wanda.
Sorry to have troubled you folks. I'll see myself out.
Keep everyone informed.
So there's no panic, ma'am.
But isn't it a secret?
You have no idea how secret.
Well, why are you telling everyone?
It's a smokescreen.
What?
Double bluff. Look, you obviously don't know anything about intelligence work, lady. It's an XK Red 27 technique.
Very much looking forward to it, man. And then when my wife, we're gonna do a show that my wife picks next, and we're gonna do 3 rom-coms. So we'll see how that goes.
Rom-coms like Lifetime Channel style rom-coms, or The Notebook, or Black Book, or
actually, I'm not gonna give up too much. Two of them I really like, and I love Love Actually. That's a great Christmas movie. But it's 2 of them I really like, and 1 of them I really hate, and I can't wait to shit all over it. But I don't want to say what the movies are yet.
No worries.
But I think we'll have them all picked out within a month or so. Well, I noticed you have a lot of documentaries possibly coming up, right?
Possibly, yeah. I forget what I was doing. I think I was listening to some gibberish Trump speech, and I just started making a list of election-themed or election-relevant movies.
Michael Moore does some really good stuff, man. He gets pretty deep. I mean, he does get a little bit irritating sometimes because sometimes he will belabor the point, I believe, but he's like probably one of the best in my opinion, one of the best documentarians going right now, because he does dig so deep on his subject matter, and he doesn't exactly blush, you know what I mean? Like, he's not afraid to expose things for what they are.
When he was making Sicko, I don't know if you've seen that one. It's about that.
I've seen every single one of his films. I love everything he's done, man. Although I get tears sometimes watching him, unfortunately.
It can definitely happen. But when he was making Sicko, he came here to do a rally. I can't remember who it was for, but he and Viggo Mortensen came and did a rally for some politician. He had found a fax or an email or something that was going around a bunch of the healthcare companies of instructions of what you're supposed to do if Michael Moore shows up. And there's all this stuff, and there's a helpline if you don't know what to do. So he had Viggo dial on his phone and put the crowd in, because he did a thing at the theater here called the Palace. I think it was at the Palace Theater. So he had him hold up his phone.
Are you in Columbus? I'm sorry, man, not to interrupt.
No problem.
You're in Columbus, right?
Yes, sir. And they had us call the helpline, the emergency helpline, and just say, he's here, what do I do? But it was, a couple hundred people.
Right.
But yeah, Michael Moore, Fahrenheit 11/9. I did not see that in the theater. The movies of his that I saw in the theater, either when they came out or when a place was doing a showing, was Fahrenheit 9/11, Bowling for Columbine.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 2 that I saw in the theater. But I think I've seen them.
Roger and Me was kind of the one that got him in the spotlight, right? That was sort of his breakout.
Yeah, I think he had done some cable access or some TV show type stuff before that, but I think Roger and Me was his first documentary.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I love watching his stuff because it's so deep, but it gets so depressing, dude. Because he like hits the nail on the head a little too close to home, Just there's the things that are going on, man. He's not afraid to expose shit, that's for sure.
Right now I'm watching Who Killed Malcolm X.
I've never even heard of it, man.
I think it just came out this year. Maybe 4 or 5 parts, I think. And it's this guy.
No kidding. That's on Netflix?
Yeah.
All right. I'm adding that to my queue as we speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's this guy that he's a Muslim himself, and he's a historian. I think he's a tour guide in Washington, D.C., speaking of 600 Pennsylvania, or Murder at 1600 and all the politics that we're talking. but he just really started researching the murder of Malcolm X. And there's some interviews with a lot of people that were there, a lot of people that were in, around him, knew him, with a lot of video footage and photographs, and it's interesting. So yeah, that's what I'm watching now. But Dirty Money, if you want to hate people or hate the medical industry, that's a good one.
I've heard about that, but I've never watched it. Now, is that also a Netflix, like a series type documentary?
Yes, each episode's about a different thing. There's, the medical industry.
Oh, yes. I do remember seeing that one. I had it in my queue for a little bit, but for whatever reason, I kind of moved on to something else.
Because it's not happy. It's just like I'm gonna watch The Great Hack sometime soon here. I haven't seen that yet.
That one I have seen. That it's okay, but it's not quite as dramatic as I was hoping it would be. I don't know, man. It didn't go as deep. Okay, so this is, in my opinion, this is what sets Michael Moore apart from other documentarians. Is he fucking goes for it. You may love him, you may hate him, but he goes for the jugular, right? Every time. Like when he showed up at the fucking actor that was in the Kubrick film that was the National Rifle, the NRA spokesman. Yeah, he showed up at Charlton Heston's place, just fucking hitting the button on his entryway alarm there. Like, hey, I'm here to talk to Charlton Heston. Like him or love him, dude. And I really thought that documentary just didn't go deep enough. It was more fluffy.
He makes more declarative statements with his documentaries than some people will. Yeah.
Let's leave it at that, man. That's a good way to put it. And you can always tell it's a Michael Moore film when you see it, you know?
At least when you start hearing that voice.
Yeah, of course. You knew he directed the John Candy movie, Canadian Bacon?
Yes, that was a fun one. Vanessa and I actually covered that on here a couple of Christmases ago.
Like right around the time you were in New Orleans, probably. Damn it. And I missed you.
No, I don't think maybe it was a little bit longer. My son was 1 or 2, and he's getting ready to turn 5 this year.
And is he still a little hellion?
A little bit. He's chilling out a little bit more now that he plays his drums more often, and he's doing hockey.
Oh, nice.
So
that's definitely 2 ways to get your aggression out.
The more drums I play, the chiller I am, or more chill that I am, and sometimes I'll sit down and play on his little kit just because I don't feel like setting up my full size kit, and it still has a little bit of that effect. And it's going back to what you were talking about. I don't know if you want to get away from it, but the election this year, I'm definitely taking a little bit more medicine and playing a bit more drums. It's primary season now. For some reason, they moved our primary to St. Patrick's Day.
Interesting. Okay, so you have a lot of drunk Irish people voting.
I don't know.
I'm not voting.
Probably not voting. My city is largely independents and Democrats, but the state is mostly Republican controlled. There's like Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati are more more Democrats than Republicans, but our governor is a Republican. One of our senators is a Republican. We're super fucking gerrymandered.
Yeah.
My congressional representative is a Republican because they shoot this tiny sliver into the city to and then it makes this weird shape where my dad and I think I might have told you this, but my dad and I are in the same voting district, and he lives about an hour away towards Cleveland.
Unbelievable, man.
They changed the primary to be on St. Patrick's Day, and with most Republicans, the way they see it is the fewer people who vote, the better it is for them, and statistically, that is true. Republicans are more likely to vote in every election, and they usually have a unified behind one candidate for the most part. So it's weird. Our congressional districts are going to be redrawn. We passed by ballot. We passed a redistricting thing because our decision of the Supreme Court overturned.
I mean, so is that a good thing that it is going to be redrawn, or what?
It will be redrawn, but it's not going to be the maps that the court agreed was more fair. It's going to be this thing where 40% of the minority party has to agree to the map that the majority party draws, and this and that and the other thing, instead of things that are made by computers to be fair.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. Very strange, man.
Yeah, and but yeah, it will be better, I imagine. But it's annoying as fuck. People are getting thrown off the polls left and right. They passed that thing giving, in places like Florida, where felons who are out of prison got their right to vote back, especially when they use people who are in jails and prisons who can't vote to count as population for congressional districts.
Yeah. And yet they don't vote.
No, they don't
How
vote.
does that make sense?
They take up, that's again, that's another episode. But
what were you talking about, the box from the Clive Barker movies?
Oh, the lament configuration.
The ultimate puzzle box, right? Try to figure that one out.
Yeah, it's early on in the election season, like you were saying. You were thinking about what if the way that Iran was handled, if that blew up. And there is quite a bit of time between now and November, if you're hearing this right away, and maybe you're listening to this in the future. And if you're listening to this in the future, that means some of us made it.
I've almost come around, man. I mean, you know me. You and I've been talking about this or messaging about this for a couple of years, that I want a young candidate, right? Like the youngest possible blood. But I could kind of go with Bernie at this point, as long as he gets a good young vice president. And I don't want to sound morbid, but I think you know where I'm going here, right?
He would be the oldest elected president ever.
After Trump only, right?
Trump is 72. Trump is younger. He is now the oldest. Yeah. Trump is now the oldest president ever elected.
Yeah, to date.
Yeah, to date. His doctor says that he is in perfect 100% awesomeness health, but
of course, all those Big Macs.
All those Big Macs, all those hamburgers and kofifi.
And the quasi beef.
And, perfect run-of-the-mill last-minute rushes to the hospital. Everything's fine.
I'm just hoping they've got a great pool boy there at the White House for his wife, for his wife's sake. Sorry about that.
She might. I don't even know if she lives at the White House anymore. But everybody, how the 7,000 people that have left the administration already have all put out books. Most of them say that they do stay in separate bedrooms.
You know what? There's no lack of pool boys and cabana boys in Florida.
That is where they live now. The winter
where Mar-a-Lago is. That's right.
Speaking of the Secret Service, and that whole bill that we have yet to see how much it costs, but I've seen anywhere of $600 to $700 per night for each room for each Secret Service person for each day that they are there.
Well, basically, 1 day's of expenses could probably feed or take care of the medical needs of a city. So it all comes out in the wash, right?
But it's owning the libs.
Ay.
But yeah, so it's gonna be a fucked up election. We do need young blood, but I just need a nominee that people can get excited about, because I think a lot of people voted for Clinton because, no matter how little you like her, it wouldn't have been as bad as Trump.
So I have to ask you, man. So while we're on record and we're actually recording a podcast and everything, you said you have some issues with Buttigieg. What are those issues?
My main issues with him are how quickly he seems to have stepped away from a lot of his ideas that he started with that I was excited about.
So the wishy-washy factor then.
Yeah, I totally get changing your position, but I think it's great if people can change their minds on new information, but on blind faith of somebody I don't really know anything about, I'm a little less excited about somebody who couldn't win an election in Indiana. A statewide election in Indiana.
Fair enough. The whole accountability thing and everything. But, I mean, Bernie's got some great ideas. You got to admit, we've gone so far to the... I don't know if have we gone that far to the right, or is Trump just like, is he putting on the grand show? You know? Does he really believe this shit?
I mean...
Does he really think it's healthy to keep fracking and to close down all these national wildlife refuges? And
he does, or he
I mean,
doesn't
really?
care. You know, he likes
Mr. Short Term. He's Mr. Short Term, right?
Yeah, short term, cash out, declare bankruptcy. I voted for Sanders in the primary last time. Bloomberg and Biden need to go away. Bloomberg introduced and endorsed George W. Bush at the Republican convention. That's how recently he was a Republican. Bloomberg's got...
Well, have you seen... You've seen all the pictures of him, like, hugging and basically sucking Trump's dick.
Or hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, I've seen all those, too.
Defending stop and frisk by saying, well, basically, all criminals are black people. And,
well, sure.
You know,
and grabbing them by the pussy.
Especially if he holds true to his word, where he says that he will pay for 500 staffers for whoever the nominee is, even if it's not him.
Well, that would be great if he did.
Fuck. I mean, there was 4.4 or 4.5 million people who voted for Barack Obama who did not vote in the 2016 election. Now, there were
why was that? Why was that?
I think that Clinton didn't really get a lot of people excited. Or, I mean, there are people that don't like Hillary Clinton because she's a woman. But I think there are people that don't like her because they don't like her politics.
We're not quite ready for a female president.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Warren is tanking. She's doing poorly so far.
Look at it this way. If you think about it, Daeron, we let black men vote several years before we let white women vote, correct? Because didn't all that a lot of the suffragette movement and stuff was like in the early 1900s, for fuck's sake. We were that fucking backwards for that long, right?
Yeah, well, let's see, women's suffrage...
I mean, I know that's hard to believe, man.
Yeah, and then a lot of people didn't get the right to vote
think,
until the Civil Rights Act in the 60s.
Which is crazy, right?
I mean, fuck. A lot of our friends are nihilistic and think that everything's fucking over already. I can't think like that because the only thing to do is to try to make it not happen. This is the first presidential election of the show because the show was in the planning stages last time, and the first episode came out right around the inauguration. So I don't know if I'm gonna get dark or distracted or both this year. That's why I've got comedies or I feel like shit documentaries, and I'm gonna try to balance that. We're all going through this together. I think a lot of the political opposition to Trump is gonna be a clearer picture after Super Tuesday this year.
Now, when is Super Tuesday?
That is at the beginning of March. I think it's the first Tuesday in March. And that is...
Okay, so that's when the picture will really come into it. Like, for example, 4 years ago, is that when it became clear that Trump was a real contender? Or was it after that even?
It was a little bit after that. I think it was around the summer when everybody's like, oh shit.
Okay.
Some states are canceling their Republican primaries because they say that, why bother? But
why bother? It's ordained, right? He's the chosen one.
Yep. The golden Cheeto calf for the
right. The really bad what was you saw that picture that showed half of his face orange and behind that was the...
Though if his pigment matched the parts around his eyes or behind his ears, yeah,
right. Unbelievable, man.
But Super Tuesday, beginning of March, is Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, and Virginia. And yeah, my state's primary is like 2 weeks later.
Well, I guess we shall see how it goes, huh? Hopefully there won't be a murder at 1600.
Yep. Hopefully it's not a contested convention.
Right.
I mean, we've seen the stuff about the 1968 Democratic Convention, but imagine that, but in Milwaukee now. Well, if that happened now, it'd probably be quicker to get beaten with clubs and tear gassed. But I don't know.
You never know.
You never know.
Or as Trump likes to yell out, "Throw them out of here! Throw them out of here!" They say something negative about what I'm preaching.
I can't remember the last time he said that lie about being a president for everybody. But yeah, he's got a chance. The odds are in his favor, but yeah, he won by 2 votes per precinct in Michigan. 2 votes.
Wow.
And I don't know. I'm sure he's got some new fans, but I really doubt that he picked up a lot of fans. I bet he lost a lot of what's the worst that could happen? People. I think that there's going to be more people strategically voting this election. At least I hope so. I know I will be. I won't be throwing my vote away like I did last time on principle. I'll vote for Biden. Yeah. That's who it is. I don't want to. There's a variety of holding noses.
I gotcha.
With different strengths. And but primary season is the time to tell everyone why the person that you support should be the person and why the people that they aren't going to be. Yeah, it's just try to keep it nice. And I don't know. But I haven't given up yet. I might be fooling myself, but I also am not the person that's punished the most by a Trump presidency. Other than empathy for others.
Technically, you're not. But
yeah, technically, but I don't know.
Well, at the end of the day, man.
Yeah. You say something that makes sense.
At the end of the day, Daeron. We're all one country. We're all one world. And if one of us gets sick, or if something happens to one of us, or if one of us is treated unfairly, or if one of us is denied human rights, we really all are, man. So at the end of the day, we're kind of in this together. So if you don't see that right now, and if you think, well, I'm getting a little leg up by, going this way because they have the same skin color as I do, or they're the same sex as I am, or whatever, you're kind of fooling yourself. Because believe you me, we're all in this thing together. There's no doubt.
Everybody's water's getting poisoned. And on that note, do you got any more? I know you plugged your upcoming Monty Python tribute and your rom-coms. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about Murder at 1600 or, The Horror Returns? If we didn't say this at the beginning, and if you don't recognize him from anywhere else, this is Lance, and I am Daeron.
Murder at 1600, I had fun. I enjoyed it, man. And fucking, you can never go wrong with Wesley Snipes. When he showed up in the opening scene and he was chewing on that unlit cigar, and he got up close to that dude and just fucking punched him, and then realized that the gun was on safety, so the guy really had no intent to kill himself anyway, or at least no knowledge of how to do so. You kind of know what you're dealing with. It's not going to win. Not going to win. 1997 movie. It didn't win any Academy Awards, obviously. But do yourself a favor. If you haven't seen Murder at 1600, go check it out. Fun movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. Murder at 1600 was fun. Even remembering how it ended, I didn't remember how they got there. When I was younger and I saw it, I didn't think as much about the entire cabinet trying to fabricate a war. Now I want to see Demolition Man. I've already got plans, but not scheduled. There's supposed to be a New Jack City episode on Psychosemantic sometime here. The plan is to do it sometime this year. And yeah, VD Clinic, I should plug that. Next episode should be the 1991 movie Daughters of the Dust. And we're also doing a book put together by Zora Neale Hurston called Every Tongue Got to Confess. And it's like a collection of folk tales and stories by Southern African Americans, the Gulf Coast.
I have heard of it. Yep, I've heard of the book. I've never read it though.
It's pretty good. The audiobook version is read by Ozzie Davis and Ruby Dee. And I think that's kind of it. You know, the Atomic Age Saucer Cast has been on a little bit of a break, but Jerry says that Kill the Cast will be back in March. So Atomic Age Saucer Cast might pick back up after that. And who the fuck knows? But thank you so much for your time, man. And I don't know if there's a life message that we sometimes do at the end of these episodes that come from Murder at 1600. A little bit of advice, something to live by from the movie. What do you think it would be?
I don't know.
Yeah. Don't be a shithead that beats your girlfriend and nobody will frame you for murder, maybe.
Well, okay. There you go.
But, yeah, you know, President Ronnie Cox has the best intentions. I think him holding out, not starting a war. Hopefully they worked out a deal to get the captive soldiers back. But if anything's like now, you know, North Korea doesn't mind killing Americans and sending them back. Was that Otto guy? Can't remember the last name because so many terrible things have happened in the last few years. But and yeah, Alan Alda's much more likable in things like MASH.
Or anything else besides
or
this.
Or anything else.
Because this is the first thing I've hated him in, ever.
And I'm glad they did this with Wesley Snipes and not Bruce Willis. Nothing against him, but I feel like it might have been like a okay Die Hard kind of movie if he was in it. Maybe a lot more harmonica solos.
And always bet on black.
Don't forget to duck and cover.
He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you. Yep.